Hello again, I am Blunty, and game prices are going nuts. I'm sure you've probably noticed there's been quite a bit of debate around it. Sony kind of leading the way with hiking prices in ways many feel like is not justified. Today, though, we're having a little chat about Cyberpunk and its comparatively huge cost of the expansion pack called Phantom Liberty, which now we have even more details about, but also by the maker. Look at what Starfield is going to cost. Look at that. That's a large number. Let me know in the down below how you've been feeling about all of this, and if you think it is, in fact, justified, because games are more expensive now, because inflation, because whatever, because considering the record profits the large game studios have been posting consistently while also laying off massive chunks of their workforce, so they can maintain the absolute fantasy of ever-increasing profits for their shareholders in a nightmare of endgame late-stage capitalism, I think most of us are probably going to be a bit cranky about it, a bit cynical about it. What do you say? While you're down there venting a little bit, any stab at the thumb button, the sub button, and the bell are also extremely welcome. Thank you very much for all of you who've done that. May it appease the mighty machine mind, speaking of evil corpo overlords. And a special thank you as always to the patrons whose above and beyond support of me is rather more warmly welcomed than the other stuff we're talking about. Okay, so we've just had a bunch of game reveals, teasers and news and announcements and whatnot between the Summer Games Fest thing and the Xbox Showcase thing and the Starfield Direct thing that flowed on from that. We're once again in that time of year where the drought breaks in a rather large way and we have an absolute flood of game news and releases, and they accelerate ever more towards that most densely packed time of year from September to December. There's so much meat to fry up here already, I hardly know where to start first, but perhaps the two biggest headliners amongst all of this is No Man's Skyrim, also known as Starfield, but we got such a huge info dump on that this morning, and frankly the number of hot takes and things you missed and breakdown style videos and whatnot that will be flooding your feeds for at least the next day and a half or so. It's going to be nuts. So I kind of want to sit with that one for a while, absorb it, consider it, rewatch the presentation a few times and pass it through the filter of Bethesda bullshit. Reflect on what the difference between Bethesda's almost universally solid and excellent presentations are, because they do this stuff really well. The presentations like this are extraordinarily good. But you have to compare that versus the screeching trash fire truth that is the actual reality of their game launches. So instead I'm going to start with my other pretty hyped expectation game, or rather expansion as it were, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, and I'm almost out of the habit of my brain really wanting to say Liberty City instead of Phantom Liberty. This one's a little easy to talk about right now because it's something more of a known quantity, while Cyberpunk 2077 itself had a rather Bethesda-adjacent launch, a Bethesda-style launch. CD Projekt Red have indeed worked quite hard to patch up their shattered reputation, and as I have addressed in recent videos, it's actually come a long way and is now in a state I can enthusiastically encourage other people, new players, to finally try it out, and for existing, lapsed or abandoned players to return to it and give it another chance to impress you, because my most recent playthrough, a lot of fun. And on that repaired foundation of Cyberpunk 2077 will land Liberty City. Oh, god damn it. Phantom Liberty. I knew I'd do it at least once. Frick. And we finally have two more vital pieces of the puzzle to complete our view of Phantom Liberty. I nearly did it again. We have a launch date and a prize. Phantom Liberty hits us Tuesday, September 26, which means I get 20 days with Starfield before that lands. That'll be interesting. And it costs just under $30 US, or in my own local currency terms, just shy of 45 Aussie beer purchasing units, which is fully 50% of the cost of the base game, or in fact the exact same price as the base game right now as I record these lines, as it is on sale right now on CDPR's own shop, GOG, and Steam, and while I'm too lazy to check, more than likely the console storefronts too. Someone confirm that for me in the down below, I'm sure someone will shout out. There's also a bundle if you've not yet purchased the base game. Now, there's two ways to look at this price. One is to generously accept the PR spin in line, because according to the developer, Phantom Liberty is CDPR's biggest expansion to date. But the context of that statement was talking of its budget, not speaking directly to the amount of content that's in there. But if we're kind to CD Projekt Red and their self-inflicted bullet-scarred feet, and we assume that the content is directly reflected in the production budget and chunky price, well, we might be in for quite a treat. During a demo session at Summer Games Fest, Kotaku spoke to director Powell Sasko and quest designer Despoina Antaki. And I do apologize because I imagine I pronounced that quite wrongly, but moving on. But they spoke about how this thing was priced. The only comment I can offer is the thing that I know about, Sasko said. As director, we are involved in that we just recommend to our board what we think the amount of content is and what the value for the player and the actual value in the game. And that's the extent of it. So we just have a conversation internally as directors of like, yeah, we think, that this is fair or that is, and that is a price that would be fine. But we're not involved in the decision themselves, right? The decision is taken by our board, which is both an explanation of the process and also scapegoating if people are mad about it. Don't blame me, it was the board. And when in the context of comparing the size, the value and effort involved in The Witcher 3's 2 expansion pack DLCs to this, Antaki said, it's really difficult to quantify. The Witcher is a medieval world. It's more flat, it's more wide, but this is like dense. This is a huge city and it's a sprawling city. There's verticality, so it's very different, It's very different settings. And they are, of course, correct. It's an extremely different setting to build context within, and there's a whole new map area, Dogtown, coming with the DLC also. So I think it is fair to say that any direct comparison between the size, the amount of work, the type of content that had to be built and how it needed to be built for this, it's not all that useful to use Witcher 3's Hearts of Stone and Wild Hunt Blood and Wine as comparison points here. It's not really what you'd call apples for apples, I suppose. But they continue. Apart from the main story part, we're also adding minor quests and street stories, those, infinitely replayable activities, so in theory you could be playing forever. So it's really hard to quantify it. Like, some people love to speed through things like speedrun the whole game, and some people like me, for example, like to explore every nook and cranny, just take their time, see the sights, talk to every NPC in Dogtown, so, it really depends on your playstyle, and we want to encourage that and make sure that our players get to play in a way that fits their playstyles and their preferences. And that's also true. Some people do just speedrun the main quest line and don't deal much with anything else that's scattered throughout the game, and I think they're missing out on quite a lot in a game like this. I, for one, tend to spend a ton of time, not even close to the main quest lines in games like this. Heck, even in Tears of Kingdom right now, I'm like 150 hours in, and I've not even looked sideways at the end of the main quest line yet. I'm still finding new things to do in all the other bits of the game, and I'm loving every damn minute of it. And while my recent third full playthrough of Cyberpunk 2077 wasn't one where I dug into all the available side quest and whatnot stuff, my first playthrough was pretty exhaustive, and I'll be doing another full playthrough just before Phantom Liberty, and I intend to be quite thorough with that too. I want to squeeze out everything I can from the base game before Phantom Liberty comes along, because it arrives not just with new story and quests, but some low-level changes to the mechanics, the base mechanics of the game, as Anteki reflects on. Phantom Liberty does not come only with the narrative content or art content like the District, but also those things just change the way you know how you would play the game. So it is part of the difficulty of telling you exactly how long it is, but I think we can say it's a large expansion. We spent a lot of time building it. It's been 2.5 years, maybe excluding the work of the patches and stuff, so I think it should feel pretty satisfactory. I've spoken before in other videos about the kinds of additional sort of low-level mechanical changes we're expecting in patch 1.7 and Phantom Liberty, so I'll link to that down below if you're curious about that stuff. A little bit outside the scope of this video, though. So, will Phantom Liberty be worth the unusually high asking price of an expansion of this kind? Well, with my skeptics hat on, the one where I remember just how much sleazy dishonesty there was around Cyberpunk 2077's original release, and just as a reminder, they lied so big and were so dishonest, their actual shareholders sued them for being such huge liars. Okay? This is not some petty thing here. The shareholders came together and sued them for the amount of lies they told about Cyberpunk 2077 before launch. So, with that context, I can find it very hard to take these people at their word. They are demonstrably, historically, not trustworthy, and trust is very, very hard to earn back. But on that same note, they have been pumping up pretty significant patches and updates for free for nearly 3 years now, and while it took a while to get there, the game is vastly better now than it was in practically every way you can measure, either objectively or subjectively. The content of the game was always good. I always enjoyed the stories, the characters, the world. It was just the execution of the mechanics that held it back, that broke it, and it kept getting in the way of the content itself. It was hard to enjoy the content when the mechanical nature of the game just kept breaking and distracting you and getting in your way. But now that's almost been entirely rectified. So I think CDPR have done the show don't tell work so far to establish a little faith again. I'm willing to extend some benefit of the doubt in their direction, a little offering of trust. Unlike Bethesda, to bring us back full circle here, whose Starfield is, on paper, very exciting. Their presentation today was amazing. It was gobsmacking. It was so thrilling and exciting and enticing, but Bethesda's own redemption attempts with Fallout 76 fell very, very flat, and their sleazy monetization of that game, breaking old promises around that, lying again and again and again, and just generally failing at every turn to actually fix the game in any meaningful way, rather than monetize it more aggressively, really don't earn them any benefit of the doubt from me. There is no trust left there at all, and they haven't done nearly enough to earn it back, even a fragment of it. So while on paper, I am probably way more excited about Starfield than I am about Phantom Liberty, just because, Starfield is a brand new thing coming along, and Phantom Liberty is just more of a thing I already like. They're both good things, but I've got a little more faith in CDPR than I do in Bethesda when it comes to the amount of faith I'm willing to extend and the amount of hype I'm willing to allow myself to express and get swept up in. But, we'll see, I suppose. As always, I very earnestly really hope that these games, indeed all games, are fantastic and deliver joyful and extended experiences for players and their money. But there is a reason the helm of buyer's remorse remains on my shelf as a reminder about this kind of stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.